the Lord and use it for the glorification of this city. In Jesus' name,
Join me in the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just hold us down. Still a little bit excited.
You okay?
Yeah, where's my paper? Okay. Good. Where's my gavel?
We don't know what happened to the gavel. Stephanie had it.
Here, take one of these and hit the desk.
I got one, okay.
The judge probably got it.
You find it? No, but I'll got something to pound with. Come on, Bishop, let me see. All right. Thank all of y'all. Chief, Bishop, Mike. Now we've had our excitement. So, we had a roll call. No, we need a roll call.
No, sir. Yes, sir. Councilmember Dietz.
Here.
Councilmember Bolden.
Here.
Councilmember Blevins.
Here.
Councilmember Sansing.
Here.
Councilmember Ray.
Here.
Councilmember Mashburn.
Here.
Councilmember Traylor.
Here.
Councilmember Twitty. Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Raines.
Here.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm here.
All present, sir.
Okay. So before we do the minutes, Councilmember Sansing, do you have something you'd like to say?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I'm going to say, I'm sure has been foremost in most of your minds. It's just a reminder, we follow Robert's Rules of Order. When somebody is recognized to speak, that person has the floor. Please show them the courtesy not to speak over them. When we have a guest trying to speak, allow the guest to speak. I've been on the council since 1990. And I've never seen anything like the last council meetings. I can't do anything about that does that, except that I will not be a part of a council meeting that devolves like the last one did. That being said, if a council meeting devolves like that, I won't be a part of it. I will get up and I will walk out of the meeting. I would ask that 4 like-minded members get up and walk out with me, therefore denying a quorum to whoever has decided they want to disrupt the meeting, in which case the mayor would have no choice but to shut the meeting down so that we don't have to listen to that. And I would also ask the mayor, he's looking for a gavel, feel free to use the gavel. And let's all remember Robert Rules of Order. The person who has the floor, don't interrupt them, let them speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we have presentations of the minutes of the February 25th and April 15th meeting in front of you.
Second.
And motion to adopt and approve, any corrections? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, don't hear anything about the consent agenda.
Move the approval of the consent agenda.
second.
And a motion second, any discussion on it? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, the next rule of business is to accept a bid with Teresa Watson.
Mayor, I have a motion.
Okay, I need a motion to approve it.
Motion.
Well,
Second.
Okay, now we got a motion, now that it can be discussed.
I was gonna ask to go into executive session before we went into this discussion.
This is a contract, we cannot go into executive session over contract.
Sir, my discussion was about a situation that happened well before this was a contract situation.
It was always going to be under contract. Unless it's to do with employee promotions, demotions, or firing, we cannot go into executive session.
Call for the question.
Okay.
Second.
Then we was your motion to go into executive session?
Yeah, it was. I have a statement that I'd like to make about this situation that I'd like
All
under
in
the
favor of
discussion.
Executive session, say aye. Well, since we
I
can't-
withdrew. I withdrew it.
Okay,
I withdrew it.
All right, then now have your statement.
Okay. We were talking about the request to accept the bid.
Yeah.
I'm ready for us to go to discussion on this.
Okay, so,
We've got a call for question on the motion.
well, he withdrew his motion.
Brian, I need 2 withdrawals from Reedy and from Sansing
Y'all
for
withdraw.
a call to the question of the motion.
Okay, y'all recall, since he's pulling his, y'all,
I'm not gonna pull mine.
I'm gonna pull my second item.
okay, so what's the question?
Call for the question to the motion ends all conversation and discussion. So now we have to take a vote on the call for the question.
Okay. The motion is to end all discussion on executive session?
That's a roll call vote.
Okay. All right, any further discussion?
This is definitely on the executive session for right now, correct? Okay. Not this contract.
Nothing about the contract.
No, this is just a call for the question to stop discussion right now. No further discussion.
About executive session. Correct.
No, I call for the question to the motion. The motion is Sansing, seconded by Ray, to accept the bid for a contract with Teresa. This is to halt the discussion regarding the contract.
Okay,
That's what a call for the question to the motion is.
okay. All right.
Time to vote.
Roll call.
This is a roll call for the question. Councilmember Deets.
Clarity.
Can I ask a question just real quick? I think it clears
You
this
want to
up.
clarify the motion, right?
If we vote to approve the call to question, we are not going to discuss this contract.
Absolutely
That is what
not.
they said.
That's what that explain it?
Okay. Councilmember Deeds. Oh, yeah, you're doing this, not me.
If you want to, I'll let you. Sure. Councilmember Bolden. Councilmember Blevins.
No.
Councilmember Sansing.
Aye.
Councilmember Ray.
Aye.
Councilmember Mashburn.
No.
Councilmember Trailer.
No.
Councilmember Twitty.
No.
Councilmember Smith.
No.
Councilmember Raines.
No.
Okay, so now then,
The call for question fails.
okay, another question, I'd entertain a motion to approve Teresa's contact, and then we can discuss it.
We
You've
already
done that.
we already have a
Done that.
motion and second to approve the contract, to accept
Okay.
the bid.
Okay, so now we can discuss it. So,
Correct.
let me just give some history back on this. I think in December, we put out a request for bid, like HUD said to. Actually, Teresa didn't turn in the bid at the time, but it wasn't sealed bids. So we went out recently and asked for sealed bids. We received one sealed bid, and that was from Teresa Watson for the dollar amount that's in the contract, which will include the back pay of 2 months that she worked without a contract.
Is your green light on? It just doesn't seem like it's.
It doesn't seem very loud.
Okay, now it's on. Is that better?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so any questions?
So,
Okay.
Mayor?
Okay, you have the floor.
so if I'm not mistaken, this is the contract that was alluded to at the last city council meeting by Councilmember Raines that you went to the municipal league to try to get approved without the approval of the council, correct?
I didn't try to get anything approved at all with them. Only thing I went to them for is find out what we can go to executive session for. And then Stephanie told me.
So I have a question on that then.
Well,
Can-
let Mr.
I'll
Blevins
relinquish
finish.
my time to Councilmember Raines.
All right, Councilmember Raines?
Yeah, so can we get clarification on that? Because there was correspondence made to the municipal league. So if I'm mistaken, I would like to know where I was wrong.
I don't really know what you're asking. I didn't ask the municipal league for me to approve the contract without y'all doing it. Can we go to executive session to discuss a contract? Okay, It was either we were going to waive competitive bidding, or we were going to have to put it out for sealed bids. That's the only two choices we had. So before was going to be to waive competitive bidding and accept her contract, or to put it out for sealed bids, which is what we did. And because she hadn't turned in her contract like she did, we couldn't approve it anyway, is my understanding. Is that correct, Stephanie?
Well, to answer Rose's question, I have a copy of the email, if you would like me to read it. This is from Lanny at the Municipal League in response
I
to...
don't know if your microphone's on.
It's on. Is that better? And I actually didn't receive this from Bob. Bob sent this to two other directors who then sent it to me. But it is, Mayor, in a city of the first class, the city council may set the procedures for making purchases. However, this does not include requiring approval for agreements prior to the mayor entering into those agreements. This is because the mayor holds exclusive power to contract on behalf of the city. I've attached the AG's opinion indicating that an ordinance which required prior approval of purchases other than the budget would violate the mayor's exclusive power to contract. So of course, when I read this, I called Lanny and said, I don't think you've gotten the full picture of this contract. This contract is over the $25,000, which would require council's approval or an ordinance to waive the bidding process. And he said that he did not receive that full picture, that he felt like Bob may have been venue shopping, as he called it. He didn't like the answer he got from me, so he went to the Municipal League. And that's the one that I sent to you, that you're referencing.
Right, and what I was really asking is, can we go to an executive session over contracts? That's what I was trying to get the answer to. It's not what he answered me, but that's okay. If it's over 25,000, y'all have to prove it. Over 20? Yes. Or Councilmember Raines, are you through?
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Blevins.
So, this $61,200, you said this is including the months of March and April? The only reason I ask is because this $61,200 is, from what I understand from when I spoke with Ms. Urkel from the finance department, that it is $6,600 each month for the remainder of the month and $15,000 for doing the final contract. And it, you know, when you start tallying from right now, that equals $61,200, not including the two invoices that were submitted in March and April for the 2 months that she worked without getting paid.
Okay, I don't know if she submitted. Cheryl, you'd have to come and answer this question for me.
Ms. Watson has submitted an invoice to cover the month of March and April, and so we have, I don't know if we've actually cut the check for that yet or not, but I do know that it has been submitted, and we were going to pay her $6,600 for each one of those months.
Okay.
But they're less than the $20,000 threshold.
Yes.
Okay. Continue.
So earlier in this exact conversation, you said that this did include those 2 months.
I know she's getting paid for it. I don't know what the contract is.
This bid covers from June to the end to December.
So it does not include those 2 months.
It does not include those 2 months. But since she has already worked, we went ahead and paid her according to this same rate for those 2 months that she actually worked.
Go ahead. You still have the floor.
When she worked for those 2 months without getting paid, were you under the understanding that she was going to be making $6,600 a month for those 2 months, Mayor?
I never agreed to the contract she put in. And so I didn't know what she's going to do. And because she did work, then we ought to go ahead and pay her. If this is what we're agreeing to the contract, then we ought to go ahead and pay her that amount. I called her first of May and said, don't work anymore until we get this contract worked out.
Was there a contract submitted?
She sent me one, but I never signed it. I never agreed to it.
Okay. I only asked because I FOIA requested a copy of the contract and I was not given one because I was said that all there was a submission of $600 a month for the remainder of the month plus the $15,000 additional for that. So,
Well,
I mean,
there wasn't a signed contract. There was a request, a contract that she sent in, but nobody signed it. I don't know.
I'm going to relinquish my time to somebody else if they would like to have a statement to make.
No, I don't have a statement to make. I got a question for Cheryl. Is this in our budget, her department that she had last year? Did we budget for that this year?
Her department is not a budgeted
It's
fund.
not a budgeted fund. So where do those funds, have they come from in the past?
They've come from the Community Development Block Grant, which is federal funds.
Federal funding.
And so it's
So-
federal funding, yes.
So am I understanding then if we have her under contract, we can't apply for those funds to pay her with, or can we?
Yeah, yes,
I'm
yes.
wondering-
It would come out of those same federal funds.
So the city can file for a grant to
Mhm.
get reimbursed for the money that we pay for this
We
contract.
are allocated so many dollars a year, and part of that is for administration expenses, and this would be coming out of those administrative expenses.
Do we have to file for that? I mean, we're not getting those unless we have someone doing that job though, right? Or would we
Correct.
still get those?
Correct, because it takes an administrator in order to file the paperwork and the reports and everything in order to get the funding. And so, yes.
So Ms. Watson did not retire from the city of Jacksonville.
She did.
She did
She
retire.
was a city employee. then.
She was a city employee, but all of her salary came out of those federal funds. It did not come out of general funds.
Nothing came out of the city for her job,
Never. Mm-mm.
ever.
No.
I guess the only really problem I have, or question I have, is why did she retire to turn around and want the same job?
Because we didn't have anybody do it.
She came, she
Because when I
Offered-
retire, I don't want
mhm.
to work.
She offered to come in and help until we can find someone who can take her position as a full-time employee. And so that position will be advertised. We were trying to get over this hurdle first, and then we will run advertisements for that position for a full-time employee.
Cheryl, is that clause in the contract that she will stay until a full-time employee is hired?
I do not know. I just know that it was in discussion that whenever we hire a full-time person, then she is no longer under contract.
She's got to train on, she'll be under contract at the end of the year because it's going to take that long to
Okay,
train.
my next question is, since we're trying to approve a contract, is there any opportunity for us to look at the contract?
I do not have a contract. Whenever we went out for sealed bids, what was turned in as a sealed bid was just the bid application with the amount at $6,600 per month, and the additional $15,000 for the annual report and the 5-year plan, and along with the list of the duties that would be performed. That's all I have. I do not have an actual contract.
Can I make a request that we, and this would be something we could, I'm assuming, maybe vote on, that we do pay her the $6,600 for March, April, I'm assuming May.
She did not work in
She
May.
didn't work in May. So March and April, is she working in June? Not
Yes.
until, or not until we do this?
Well, she's under the impression that this is going to be approved
Okay.
because she's got some deadlines on some reports that needs to be done, and so, and according to what she presented, it would start June the 1st, and
Okay.
since this is the first one that we've had, meeting that we've had, that's the reason why it's coming.
I would like for us to approve the March and April. I mean, I don't guess we have to approve that, but to pay her for the month of June, and before we have our next meeting and we approve this, we get an opportunity to look at the contract that's got a start date, an end date, and what the responsibilities are, and how much we're paying her a month. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Let me ask you a question. We do understand these funds are not coming from the city,
I
right?
understand that.
Okay,
But we still need to know when it ends
Are we gonna have a contract with her?
And what the responsibilities are.
Is there gonna be a contract?
There needs to be a contract, yes. And I have no expertise in contract writing, and so I know that she had submitted a contract, and of course that doesn't apply now because the figure has changed.
What it says in our agenda is request to accept bid contract with Teresa
It-
Watson. That implies to me there should be a contract.
Right.
Agreed.
Can we write a contract before the next meeting?
With Stephanie's.
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with paying her at all. I don't have a problem with paying her all the rest of the year. We just need some documentation as to what we're paying.
Okay. And I want to make one clarification. Teresa, as a contract person, will not be driving the city truck. You have to be a city employee to drive the city truck. Councilmember Blevins.
Is Mr. Trailer done? Can I ask why 2 months of work without pay even happened?
Because I didn't agree to the contract, and I actually didn't know she was working, but that's okay. There was reports that had to be filed, so she did them.
During the time that she was working that you didn't know, was she still driving the city truck?
She hasn't not driven it since she retired.
In
Won't drive.
in December.
I don't think she's driven it this year. Now, she was actually an employee till sometime in March, February.
I think that her last employment was in February, but I'm not really sure. That would have to be an HR question.
Right, but no, since she has not been getting a city paycheck, she's not driven the truck.
I would like to agree with Mr. Trailer. I think that we should pay her the 2 months and then pay her for the month of June and us revisit this at the next city council meeting.
Okay, and Stephanie, would you please drop a contract? Okay.
Do we need to make a motion for that? Do we need to do anything to make that happen?
Well, because it's under,
If Sansing and Ray will amend their motion to include those stipulations.
So amended. So amended.
okay.
You-
All right, so the motion is we're going to drop a contract, look at it at our next meeting, and approve it or not approve it,
And pay her.
Revisit it.
and pay her for the month of June.
And March and April.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, we have a question down here.
Okay, Rose?
So I just want some clarification on procedures as far as contractors go. I know that I worked for the federal government, and we had the stipulation of over $25,000 for the fiscal year had to get a bid. So is this money that we're paying her for the 3 months included in the total amount?
Well, the first 2 months won't be, the third month will be in the contract. And so the contract will be for, what, June 1st to December 31st.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this right, then the 3 months is going to be included in the total amount that this contractor is receiving for the fiscal year,
Correct.
and will be, yeah, and so we will have to vote on it.
Oh,
Is
you don't
that,
have to vote on the contract, yes.
well, for the 3 months?
Well, June will be included. The rest of it will be included, but the first two won't.
But June, the way I wanted it, June would not be included because we're gonna pay her that. Whether we approve or not, the contract,
Absolutely.
we're gonna
So
pay her
now,
for June.
we're 18, we're below.
It's
20.
400.
We got
19.8.
Yeah, 19.8, yeah.
Right, but is it a cumulative total for the fiscal year?
well, the physical year would be what's on the contract, that, what she bid, not counting the 2 months.
I think it could be, to answer your question, but the way it's spelled out now or laid out now, it's kind of bifurcated. So we're paying her the separate 3 months, and then we'll start the contract in July. But I do understand your question, but I think the way we're doing it now, we can distinguish the two and have the contract officially start in July.
So are we allowed to distinguish between the two if it's the same contractor?
It's not the same contract, but it's the same contractor. If we're
Right.
paying a contractor for 1 month and we're paying them a total of $6,000, or in this case, 3 months, and it's still under 25,000, and then I think we're fine. But because it's going over that amount, then you guys will need to approve that at the next council meeting.
Right, yeah, and I follow you on that. Like I said, I have experience with the federal end, and like it would include in any vendor that we went to. So like if we went to Trader Joe's, we could not spend more than $24,000, 909, you know?
Right. Sorry for interrupting. From what I remember from the state statute, it doesn't indicate, it doesn't break down the contractor or the specific contract or the year.
Okay.
From my memory, it's basically the contract.
So it's per contract, not the amount that you spend with the contractor.
Right. From my memory, I'll look it up and double check.
Okay, thank you. Because that is a very different stipulation.
Because, I mean, someone could work, agreed on amount for a while, and then we put them under contract. And then if it's over 25,000, y'all would have to approve the contract. Okay, any further questions?
I do.
Yes.
I just want to again, I know we're all clarifying everything, but number one, I just want to clarify that earlier when you said that this 61,200 included those 2 months, you misspoke, and it did not include those 2 months.
I don't know what it included. I didn't. Cheryl opened the bid and said this is
Well,
what we're going to do.
I'm only saying that because you said that it included the 2 months.
Well,
So-
I said we're going to pay her for those 2 months, not that it was included. Or maybe I did say that, but no.
You did say
it
it, sir.
didn't. It doesn't.
So the new contract that we create or amend for this next city council meeting will start actually from July 1 to the end of the year and also
Correct.
include the $15,000. That's
Correct.
what I wanted to clarify, and
Yeah.
it should be for whatever $6,600 less than this $61,200.
6 months, yes.
Is the 2 months that she's getting back paid, is that also coming out of the federal money, or is that coming out of the general fund?
Federal money.
Federal money. Okay. I'm through with my questions.
Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, so have you found the answer to my previous question yet? I'm sorry.
No, my internet is down. I'm working on it.
It's all
I wish I
good.
was that fast. Thank you for your confidence.
And
I mean, what's a real question, Rose? Can we hire a contractor that goes over 25,000 a year without them being under contract?
no, my question is if that special funds, the special contract of paying her for those 2 months, is it included in the total amount that we're spending with this contractor? It's very particular on wording and of the actual statute itself. Is that $6,600 included for a fiscal year, or is
will
it
be in the
per
fiscal year,
contract?
It'll be on her 1099. But
She's
she,
asking if council has to approve the 2 separate instances. So
Or if it can be
standard-
approved in one.
Standard
Yeah.
contracts in excess of $25,000, or single purchase orders in excess of $25,000. So we're fine.
And okay. And then you had mentioned something about receiving bids prior to the sealed bid process. Did I hear you correctly?
we'd ask for bids.
And did we receive bids?
No.
We received Teresa's, yeah.
Well, she sent a contract, but she never turned the bid in the process.
I believe that you're referring to the ones that occurred back in November or December of last year. Those weren't really bids, those were qualifications, requests for qualifications, and no one submitted any qualifications at that time.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can I inject something on this
Yes, sir.
to kind of help explain what Teresa's job is and what it would affect us if we don't have her writing grants? If we don't have somebody that's able to write grants like Teresa, and we have not found anybody else qualified, it means we do not get any HUD money. So when the government was giving us free money for these people to help them in housing, we would not have been able to receive any of it, because Teresa was the only one qualified to do that. It was federally funded government money that they gave us because of COVID. They paid some rents. Anybody that applied could get rents paid. So basically, I don't know when she retired. People retire all the time and then go back to work for the same job, making more money. I'm fine with that if they've earned that retirement. But you have to have somebody in a position that can write the grants to keep our city running, that protects all our people. So if we are going to beat Teresa down, Teresa did a favor to us by staying on for 60 days and helping our citizens.
Right.
We're all representing our citizens in the town of Jacksonville, are we not? It's what they elected us for. She's a viable asset to this city and has been for 30 plus years. I've dealt with her. I'm passionate about her job because she helps those that nobody else wants to help. But I'm telling you, without her, the city wouldn't have got any funds. We wouldn't get any federal funds and no COVID money. So I'm thankful for Teresa. Thank you for what you do for the city. And you know, there's a lot of people that do things for free to help your city. We got volunteers every day that go to the Care Channel that do things for free to help our citizens. Praise them and thank you, because they love Jacksonville like I do in our city. And that's all I got to say. But we need people, and I know everyone wants to get paid, but you know, let's get through this.
Let me say something too, dealing with Miss Teresa. From the time I've been here in this city, I've always considered Miss Teresa a secret weapon for the city. There are a lot of people who don't have much that are struggling, and I know personally she's recruited teams from our church to help her. So I know for a fact that she helps a lot of people. There's a lot of stuff that's not in the paper, a lot of stuff we don't say, you know. So she is an intricate part of this city, and we need her. And I know she retired, like he said. You know, she retired, but she's got a heart for the city. That's the only reason she's doing it. She's got a heart for it.
I would.
Can I, go ahead.
I would like to say that I don't think Ms. Watson's job ability is in question. I feel that the only reason this needs to be questioned is because in the last 2 months we've been burnt by unknown contracts that have been signed and agreed to, and payments have been made under the guise that a contract was already agreed to. We've been told that contracts weren't signed when they were signed. We've been handed letters of intent that were said that weren't binding when we've had the real contract not handed to us. So I think that this really does not have anything to do. I think Teresa Watson is incredible. You know, I've spoke with her on multiple occasions. Like the whole reason that I feel this has happened is because when I was told that she had worked for 2 months without getting paid, which by the way is completely unacceptable. Like, I mean, how do you not know that someone who has an integral part of the city, who is so important, as Mike Dietz just passionately stated, working for 2 months without getting paid? I mean, anyway, like yeah. So again, I don't think Miss Watson's skill is in question. It's like you want us to go into a contract that apparently doesn't exist or has been written and nobody's seen, and we need to do our due diligence on the contract. I'm sorry, Mayor
Mike
Mr.
Taylor
Trailer.
just made that motion, and that's what we're voting on.
So I would, and we've talked about this, Mr. Mayor. From now on, I think you're under the understanding that anything that's a contract that's over $25,000,
you are going to bring to us, and Stephanie's going to have
Always.
a copy of it. And
Always.
we're not going to, we're going to get past all this. And that's what we would love you to do, because that's what we expect, and the city deserves it. And I know that you're willing to do that. And I trust Stephanie on everything. That's our city attorney. That's why we hired her. And that's what we're asking for, and that's what we all want, and we all deserve.
And I'm sorry, but I thought she'd turned in a contract, and I apologize for that. So, okay. All right. We have a motion, second.
Mr. Trailer had a comment.
Mr. Trader, you got more?
No, I'm ready to vote.
All right. All those in favor of the motion to pay Miss Teresa for 3 months and at the next council meeting have a contract for the remainder of the year?
Vote on.
Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, it carries. Okay, that brings us to ordinance 1662, which is about alleys. So I entertain a motion to place ordinance 1662 on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second, put on first move, roll call.
Councilmember Deets.
Aye.
Councilmember Bolden.
Aye.
Councilmember Blevins.
Aye.
Councilmember Sansing.
Aye.
Councilmember Ray.
Aye.
Councilmember Mashburn.
Aye.
Councilmember Trailer.
Aye.
Councilmember Twitty. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Raines.
Aye.
Ordinance number 1662, an ordinance vacating alley adjacent to lots 1, 2, and 12, Block 2, Galloway Addition, within the city limits of Jacksonville, Arkansas, and for other purposes.
You think, Mr. Odie, could you explain this to us, what we're doing? This is the closing of the alleys of one of the many.
This is over on,
Jimmy, push your button.
pretty close to the intersection of Graham and Oak. Vacant lot there, has been there vacant for, I don't know, decades, several decades. That subdivision was platted back in the 50s. As most subdivisions that was platted in the 50s, they left what they call an alley in the back. I guess they was gonna have it like for garbage trucks to run in alleys in the rear of yards. It never happened in the 50s. So these alleys have never been used, they're still in existence, but somebody's wanting to develop this piece of property, which they've already brought before the planning commission and rezoned in front of the council, already approved. So this is the closing of that alley that allow them to build closer to the build line. With that alley there, they couldn't build, to the build line in the rear, 25-foot setback. Now they, it'll help them build. So we don't need that alley. We will have to have a utility easement, which we will get before we approve the building permit. And I see no issues with abandoning this alley.
Any questions of Mr. Oakland?
I got a couple.
I think Mike Traylor has a couple.
All right, one thing, if we could somehow give us the addresses of these things. I'm terrible at legal descriptions.
I am too, I understand.
And if
I'm not
there's
sure the
some-
property's been addressed yet, it's been vacant for decades, but
it-
yes, I
it's
can get you
gotta
a
be
proximity.
On this street, near this street,
Right.
whatever. Okay.
That intersection, it's one lot
Okay.
to the south
All
of that
right,
intersection.
So we're going to, right now, that's our property, that alley. Is that correct?
I've never used an alley. Me and the attorneys has discussed this. Do we legally own it? Apparently we do. I think we came up with that conclusion.
Okay, so we legally own that piece of property.
Yes.
And what we are doing is we are abandoning it. We're abandoning the piece of property.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Now, whose property is that?
It would go back to, go ahead, owner.
Right, the adjacent owners. Right, that's why we have to get their approval first to make sure that they're okay with that.
So if it's a 10-foot wide, this one's gonna get 5 and this one's gonna get 5.
If it's, the alley was split between two lots, there's all kinds of anomalies in there that may or may not be.
This, my question really just became concerning, this doesn't become, what was that word you told me? Common property
No.
on the stuff out west.
Oh, okay, yes, common access or common property on a subdivision, a POA, there was a POA.
There is no POA.
I know, there was. This goes back way, way back, okay. There's a lot of different situations, a lot of different properties.
My concern was that it became nobody's property, nobody takes care of it, and it just grows up and it's nobody's responsibility. That's not the case.
From my understanding, it's the same owner on both sides of the alley, is that right?
Well, this was the rear alley, this particular case, all this alley would be on this same property owner.
Right.
If
so-
it is split, it would go to be divided between property owners, like we would be if we abandoned a roadway. It's similar to abandoning a roadway. Yes,
I
sir.
have no further questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, with no further question, I'd entertain a motion to approve on first reading and place on second reading. All right, got a motion second, roll call.
Councilmember Deets.
Aye.
Councilmember Bolden. Councilmember Blevins.
Aye.
Councilmember Sansing.
Aye.
Councilmember Ray.
Aye.
Councilmember Mashburn.
Aye.
Councilmember Trailer.
Aye.
Councilmember Twitty.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Raines.
Aye.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve on second reading, place on third and final reading.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion before we vote? Seeing none, all those in favor, roll call.
Councilmember Deets.
Aye.
Councilmember Bolden.
Aye.
Councilmember Blevins.
Aye.
Councilmember Sansing.
Aye.
Councilmember Ray.
Aye.
Councilmember Mashburn.
Aye.
Councilmember Trailer.
Aye.
Councilmember Twitty. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Raines.
Aye.
Okay, I entertain the motion to approve and adopt ordinance 1662.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Councilmember Deets.
Aye.
Councilmember Bolden.
Aye.
Councilmember Blevins.
Aye.
Councilmember Sansing.
Aye.
Councilmember Ray.
Aye.
Councilmember Mashburn.
Aye.
Councilmember Trailer.
Aye.
Councilmember Twitty. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Raines.
Aye.
Okay, next order of business is, discuss the litter plan, cleaning up Jacksonville. Councilmember Smith.
I'm not coming to you with a plan. Mr. Mayor, you and I have had many conversations about litter. We know we have a litter problem. My question is, does the city have anything planned for a citywide cleanup? Do we have employees that can pick up litter? Can we utilize the Pathfinder? Don't they have contract employees that typically do that?
They do
That we can pay.
with the state. They have it with, Mr. Oakley, would you care to address this for me?
And what department does it fall under?
That's a good question. I can tell you who's been doing it on the roadways for the last few years,
Okay,
and that would be the street department. But we all, and the sanitation, of course, sanitation does more garbage and trash pickup. We pick up 9,000 tons a year from people's houses and debris. I mean, or we wouldn't do that, it'd be even worse. But I mean, so they're the biggest player in the whole game. But street department on roadways, where it's undeveloped properties, there's nobody there that owns it to pick it up. And we have an issue with, Mike mentioned, aforementioned. But those areas that we'll send people out. We don't have the staffing. Here's what it takes. I've been doing this several years. And at one time, through a previous judicial administration, we was getting 7 or 8 community service people every day. If we had 4 to 5 community service every day, 5 days a week, we can keep up the litter. By the time you pick up the town one time and make the rounds of the undeveloped properties, in about 3 weeks, it's time to start over and you can't even tell you've been there. So it ain't gonna be a 1-day event or a 2-day event. It's gotta be every day, 5 days a week.
I have another question.
Yes.
Have we communicated with Judge Bailey to see how we can get folks who owe community service?
We have requested it numerous times from her. I mean, you have, haven't you, Jimmy? And I have.
I
Are
have
we
when she was
actively
first
doing
hired.
that?
I
Does she do
I
it?
don't
And because they
repeatedly
haven't
ask.
been
No, I have
holding
not.
court, it makes it difficult, you know, because,
We've had court and she's been assigning community service.
Yeah, we've been getting more here
To
lately.
clean up litter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's-
Or
it's
do
not
any job,
specific-
good community punishment.
Right, it's not
I'm the only
specific to
department
litter.
that cares to use them. And if I get them, I've been using them solely on litter control for the most part.
Okay.
And they can work 2 days maybe of their choice whenever they want to come 1 week. I don't know when they're gonna be there, if they're gonna show up. They're really relaxed on community punishment, and I only do what the court allow us to do. And now they allow, say, if they work 1 day, we give them 2 days credit.
Okay.
So if they get 4 days, they may work 2 days, and I don't know when they're gonna work that 2 days. It's hard to work a program like that kind of business. It's very difficult, but anyhow. But if we get that, but now we put 1 full-time person supervise them in a truck and equipment, mostly bags, supplies, and that runs us about 50,000 a year. But to hire the staffing would be about an additional 200,000 a year if we had full-time staffing to run that litter control, which we don't have in the street department. We have liberties to spend on litter control, but there is a need there. I totally agree with that. Like I said, because if you don't do it every day, it's right back. You can pick it up, and 2 weeks later, you can't even tell you it's there.
I have another question
Sure.
for Chief Gibbs, since he's over code enforcement. Is it, I mean, I've noticed at fast food restaurants, a lot of the litter is coming from dumpsters. Like yesterday, I exited at the Little Rock Air Force Base exit, the Valero there. There's litter all behind there. Is that something that code enforcement could approach those supervisors, owners, managers, and hold them accountable
I think so.
to keep it clean?
Yes, the city council passed an ordinance, 20 years ago probably, that says all dumpsters has to be screened. And that's to prevent that litter from getting out of them. That means they gotta have, sides on it, around it. It don't supposed to be open dumpsters sitting nowhere.
Right.
There is some, but, they do supposed to be screened. Anything that builds new, we guarantee before we give a permit that they have a screening thing around their dumpsters. But, yes, but you can address that.
As far as the litter, yeah, we can address that in code.
Okay.
That is something that we have on the codes now.
On commercial businesses. I
Yeah.
think that would help tremendously.
Yeah, you're right, it blows around. I saw one
Yeah.
not too long ago, I won't name the business, but it was horrific.
Yeah.
They never pick it up. And the homeless people are going through them too. That's another problem.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments about
Yeah,
litter?
I'd like to, I mean, it's a good point you brought up about the litter, because the litter is getting outrageous. I was gonna ask our city attorney, could you get the judge's ear and let them know we need more people to pick up trash?
Sure, so the issue with defendants, if they go the route of community service versus paying the fine, if they work during the week, the judge will send them to Pulaski County, because Pulaski County is open on the weekends. If they don't work during the week, she sends them to engineering. So there's a lot of factors that are at play, but she's never denied someone community service.
So if we have somebody working on the weekends to supervise them, they would come to Jacksonville.
Arguably, yes.
But not meaning to speak, but if you don't know if they're gonna be there, are we gonna have somebody here on Saturday and then nobody show up?
Well, I'm sure that's why I was talking to our great attorney here, that she would get with the judge to enforce that they be here, and if not, their fine doubles.
So the issue with that is the court cannot enforce how the oversight goes for community service. We're not there. That's on Jimmy or Pulaski County. So Jimmy has the opportunity to give them credit, double the credit, or not, to give them credit for the day, or to assign a certain time they need to be there.
So the
Sorry,
judge,
Jimmy, to put that
the
on.
court does not enforce the time they need to be there? I mean, a person can just say, I ain't going to
The
read
court
Hamburg.
cannot say you need to report to engineering and you need to do this job at this time.
Wow.
Right? We tell them to report to engineering, and it's up to Jimmy to say, I need you in this position, or I need you to do this, X, Y, Z. We give them leeway.
Well, the court has give the liberty to those subjects, my understanding, what I'm understanding from the courts, that they are told that they can do, they've got so many days, and they'll say subject, hey, you got a job or something, or you can do 2 days a week, any 2 days you pick. And, I mean, they do. Now, what the previous judge did, they sentenced 10 days or less, they would send them to Jacksonville instead of sending them to county. When we didn't have enough, if he sentenced them 20, I said, we don't still ain't got enough people. So 20 days or less, he would keep them in Jacksonville, which we had plenty of, and I think Brett can comment on that as well. And anything over 20 days would go to county. Because we don't house people, either jail, trustees or community service, which is not the same, but similar, more at that realm. But anyhow, but it is, it's a tough to try to figure out a program, the way, they're very relaxed, in my opinion, what I'm used to, at least.
If there's certain days that you'd prefer for them to report, then we can let them know in court.
Almost certainly, Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Yes.
Is that not what they're doing?
Ma'am?
The way I understand though, the problem is if y'all tell them Monday through Friday, he doesn't know if they're gonna be there on Monday or if they're gonna come on
Right.
Thursday.
Yeah, you work any 2 days.
To engineering, and we assume that engineering is giving them the schedule.
No.
Once they're gone to engineering, we don't control what time they show up, if that makes sense.
So do you know that someone is coming, you just don't know when they are coming?
When the court sends them their time, they tell them to come see me to do their community service. They'll come in, we have them sign a release of liability in case they get injured.
Does the court notify you that they're gonna be coming or
No,
contacting you?
no, they do not notify us. They
So how
give the
these
person they send us the
schedules
time to
are
the
coming?
paperwork.
It's on the defendant to schedule
Yes.
time.
Which is what he's saying, so they just show up when they want to.
Exactly.
Well, they have
They may or may not even show up to me, and they put out a bench warrant. If they do show up to me and I fill out a release paper and get back to them, they'll say, when are you gonna start? Well, I don't know, I might be here in a couple of days. And if they don't show up in 2 weeks, I turn them into the courts and they put out a bench warrant. Something along that line. Yeah.
Sounds like a hard program to work with.
It's tough. That'd be any kind of good litter control.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
To add to that, under Batten's regime, we had shouldn't call it a regime probably, but when Batten was here, we had numerous trustees, and Jimmy had plenty of people every day. Under the current administration, it's rare now that anybody shows up. She does since it is anything like it used to be. And it's hard for us to get stuff done at the police department. They used to do our groundskeeping and stuff like that. Jimmy used them for recycling and picking up litter. We had litter crews. We don't have any of that anymore. And so it's gone way, way down.
That's the cause of the pandemic, wasn't it?
No, it was before that.
I think the court stance is if we say report Monday 8 to 5, and you don't have anything for them Monday 8 to 5, they're sitting at City Hall with nothing to do. But if we know that if we send them on a certain time and a certain date, and you're always going to have something for them.
That's most certainly. I'll hire an extra person supervisor to work them 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. And if I have enough of them that I know will be here on Saturday, I'll hire somebody for Saturday. But I gotta know they're gonna be here before I pay somebody to come in and supervise them. But we gotta.
So Mr. Mayor, can you get with Judge Bailey and you guys come up with a plan, or Stephanie?
I've asked her to send us people. Stephanie will continue asking.
But we need to go further than asking. We need to sit down and have a meeting and have a plan.
I will see her in court on Tuesday.
Okay.
And I will ask her.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
We're gonna have a whole lot of people.
Okay. All right. With no further discussion, that brings us.
I actually have a point. I just wanted to highlight something that I have seen done in the community that I want to express thanks for. One of my childhood friends, Chris Urkel, he's actually started a program that he calls Unity in the Community. And one of the things that he's trying to address is the litter problem. I know that last year he did several videos of him cleaning up abandoned lots. He was mowing the expressways in between like Main Street and the sidewalks, if I remember. But I mean, I think that it's definitely needed if we have a community member that is going as far as creating something and trying to make our community a better place. And I just want to thank him for what he's doing. I see it. And I hope that maybe if this doesn't work, then maybe we try something similar to what Chris has exemplified, you know, because it's been a wonderful example to me of just how somebody can add in 30 minutes of just enrichment, of just, doing something better for their community. And again, thank you so much, Chris.
Okay, all right,
I have one more thing to add.
okay.
Let me just say this, the NAACP has, I think, 2 cleanups a year, and they do is it 4?
Mm-hmm.
They do a fantastic job
Right. They
on
clean
certain parts
Grim
of the
Road.
community,
Yeah.
but we need this citywide.
Yeah, and they're good point to make, because there is an Adopt a Street program, so they're like any civic organization like the NAACP, Rotary Club, Lions Club, you name it, we can adopt a street, a main road, that maybe we do see a lot more trash, Like I said, Chris in particular, he focused on like Main Street and around where he lives. But maybe if we reach out to these civic organizations and see if they would like to help us combat this.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, thank you. All right, that brings us to ordinance 1661. Entertain a motion to place ordinance 1661 on first reading.
Motion.
Okay, got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion, a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Deeds.
Aye.
Councilmember Bolden.
To put, motion 1661 on first reading.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Councilmember Blevins.
Aye.
Councilmember Sansing.
No.
Councilmember Ray.
No.
Councilmember Mashburn.
No.
Councilmember Trailer.
Aye.
Councilmember Twitty.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Raines.
Aye.
Ordinance number 1661, an ordinance to permit the selection of council members from each ward to be voted on by only the citizens of the ward in which they serve and for other purposes.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I think this 10-member board was created some 20 years ago, so everybody in the community will have a chance to vote, be represented in their neighborhood. That's why they went to 10-member board. If we do this for the individual wards, it'll be a lot of people in the neighborhood that won't get a chance to represent their cities, that represent their ward there. And that's why they come to that. And to present a lawsuit of discrimination, that's why we delivered this. So the city of Jacksonville wouldn't be a part of no lawsuit of discrimination. This is the same thing that some of the cities are doing now to change the voting rights law, to try to get a certain party to have all the votes, and then a certain party, if they don't come to vote, that's it. They can't vote on certain ways. I think this is discrimination part for the city of Jacksonville.
Hold on, Reedy. Can I get?
Okay.
I think, Reedy, what the wanting is not to have at-large aldermen. It's to only be able to vote in the ward that you live in, not vote for all 5 people that are running it.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the same what I'm saying.
Personally, myself, we don't have at-large aldermen. I mean, you have to live in the ward that you reside in, and I don't think our town is big enough that it's so big that we have to worry about somebody doing something just for their area. We all need to work for all over town, and I would be opposed to having ward voting.
If you vote this in, that's what's gonna happen.
I know that, but I wanted to discuss it. That's why I
Right.
wanted to.
Okay, are you through, Mr. Trainer? Councilmember Sampson.
Now this, way back in 1990, this was a topic of discussion back at that time. We discussed it ad nauseum back then. I can tell you what will happen. If you are representing your ward, you will do whatever you need to do to bring home the bacon to your ward to get reelected. You will no longer want to serve the entire city of Jacksonville. When I first ran for office, I said that I intended to serve the entire city. I just reside in Ward 2. I still continue to represent the entire city, to serve the city. But if you go to a system where it's ward only, I can see in the future where the wards will fight each other for financing. We will become like the big cities. We're a small enough city with about 3,000 to 4,000 voters that it's no problem politicking in the entire city. If you only want to politic in your own ward, then I think you're doing a disservice to the citizens of Jacksonville, because you're saying, I only want to represent this little group of people. You want to represent the city of Jacksonville. You want to do what is right for the city of Jacksonville. I don't want to sit there and say, well, I'm going to do the best I can to take money from your ward and your ward and your ward to put in my ward so I'll get reelected. And there's places in town in which you can come up with the needs and show that, hey, the richer wards in town will have to give up some of their funds to the poor wards. And it can happen in the future. If you represent the entire city, you tend to work more as a group for the city, and it helps eliminate infighting between wards. It is simply a bad idea. We are not such a large town with 20 to 30,000 people voting in which sections have separate interests. Jacksonville is a small enough town that the interest of one is the interest of all, and that's the way it should be.
Thank you. Councilmember Bowden.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, I was a no vote in the beginning of even discussing it because I know it's not going to work. And the reason why, because in a community like this, we work as a team. If there's something that needs to be done in your zone, we get together and we get it done. It's all about teamwork. And from my previous experiences, some of you all know I have a previous experience in Pulaski County Special School District. And there was an individual on there who was from Jacksonville. But because it was by ward, that person would always get money for that ward, and the rest of us over here in North Pulaski, Jacksonville would hurt. So I've seen the evil side of it, and I think it's better that we work as a team. That's just me from experience, and I know it will work. So that's straight up.
Councilmember Blevins.
I will say that one of the biggest instances of this voting by ward, I think, is not necessarily to take money or to be used in a malicious way. Like, we're all adults and we should be thinking about the city as a whole. And I mean, just to think, you know, if you're already in the mindset that the guise of this voting by ward is because you want to be able to take money, I mean, it's going to end up being a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think what this is about is having the people of that ward be the people that want you in there. Like, there has been multiple situations in past voting where the person who was voted to watch over a certain ward, all the votes came from another ward completely. I mean, we need to make sure that the person that is watching over the ward is voted for the people by the people, you know, of that ward. I mean, again, I know that this has been a deal. Like, it was already talked about when Councilmember Collins brought it up. When he brought it up for a vote. So I know that there's probably a good chance this is going to get done. But I mean, like, I think that we are doing the people of the wards a disservice for allowing people in Ward 2 to vote who is in charge of Ward 5. I feel that there shouldn't be a problem with us voting by wards, is basically what I'm trying to say. I'm done.
Councilmember Deeds.
Oh, I'm ready to call for a vote.
No, I have something.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to
Councilmember
say, I
Twitty.
thought that I would be able to introduce this or say something, but.
Okay, you will.
All right.
I just wanted to make a comment. I had a handful of people that had reached out to me about this issue here, and one individual brought up the fact that the school board is done by zone, and they wasn't going to vote because the person that they wanted to vote for wasn't in their ward, zone or whatever, I think it's zone in the school board. And we did have a low turnout for whatever reasons, but, you know, again, I think everybody up here agrees that we work for the citizens throughout the city. It's not just my ward that I work for, so that's all I have.
Councilmember Raines.
First, I would like to agree with that. I do believe that is a virtue among the individuals that get elected. I prepared an introduction for you guys, but I see that that's a little bit late. But I would like for us to join our fellow first-class cities of Pulaski County and rule out at-large voting once and for all. Fewer and fewer cities and districts across the country still practice at-large voting. That is because courts and other decision makers long have recognized the discriminatory methods of elections like at-large voting enhance discrimination of marginalized communities of what they experience by taking advantage of socioeconomic and other disparities their communities face. These disparities were one of the things that inspired Martin Luther King Jr. to lead his march from Selma to Montgomery, which inspired Lyndon B. Johnson to sign in the Voting Rights Act of 1965 into law. And since 1965, districts, counties, cities, and school districts across the country have been tasked with revoking discriminatory methods in their dated voting laws. Some communities who went without action by local municipalities faced time-consuming and costly litigations. Dallas versus Crenshaw County, Alabama was one that resulted in 183 jurisdictions throughout Alabama to ultimately abandon at-large methods of elections. And then more recently, we had Georgia State Conference of the NAACP versus Fayette County Board of Commissioners. And then not only do we have to worry about potential costly litigations from community members, from civic organizations, or whatever, we also have to worry about the United States itself, because we as a country have roughly 40 cases to enforce Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The most recent one was in 2020 against a school district. So our country's been active in enforcing this. In 2017, we had the United States of America as the plaintiff versus the City of East Point City Council, Suzanne Pixley in her official capacity as mayor of East Point, Cardi, and of course all of the council members listed in their official capacity, and the city clerk listed in their official capacity. The United States going against a city because of at-large voting, because it is against Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. At-large voting has been named for a long time. A vote for this ordinance is in a step towards allowing our citizens, mind you, to take part in making history, and a vote against will delay history being made until someone or some entity comes to hold us accountable. If you guys would like, I do have a visual demonstration prepared so that I can help maybe contextualize how at-large voting dilutes the voting pool, if anybody would benefit from that.
Was that submitted in the packet?
It's a visual demonstration.
Okay. Councilmember Sensi.
Thank you for the history lesson. But again, I remind, the city of Jacksonville traditionally has 3,000 to 4,000 voters in the entire city. We are a small city when it comes right down to it. asking somebody who wants to be on this council to work the entire city and to pledge to support the entire city instead of just a small area is not too much for ask for somebody that wants to represent the city. If you want to represent the city, you are willing to politic and campaign and spend the money that it takes to politic in the entire city. Because that's who you represent.
Let me,
Any other, Councilmember Bowman?
gotta make sure I say this right. At-large voting is great for Jacksonville because of the fact that all of us up here work for the entire city. A good example was an individual came here tonight, had a question, he wanted to speak. I went to him and asked, how can I help you? He told me what he wanted. Well, it was something that we had power over. But lo and behold, we had Jim Moore in our house. And I took that school board member to that individual because that's who runs that. That's teamwork. Again, dealing with your history on Martin Luther King, I've been African American all my life. And I remember my parents had to pay poll tax to go to the polls. You can't relate to that. That was back when they would make it hard for you to vote. You couldn't vote, you couldn't walk up there, they give you a new test to make sure as an African American, you can't relate to that. History books don't give you the impact of living it. When Martin Luther King stepped forward, he stepped forward for an entire community, but it impacted a nation. At-large voting is no way racist. And if somebody says that, they really don't know racism. At-large voting is making us as candidates get out there and work this community, whether you black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever, and get to know everybody. So when they meet you, they know, hey, that's so-and-so and that's so-and-so. That's what it's all about. So I just wanted to correct you on that deal with Martin Luther King. You don't understand poll tax. I remember my mother and father crying, trying to go vote and had to turn around. I was raised in that era.
Okay. Councilmember Blevins?
I would like to say that ending at-large voting, I don't think automatically translates into you can't help the entire city. I don't know where that definition has came from, the whole idea of this, but I do just have a question. Like, is there any of our surrounding cities, are they all at-large voting as well, or is there any of them that are voted by wards?
I know Cabot's at large, but Little Rock is
Ms. Raines?
split, part at large, part by wards.
Sherwood?
But we don't want to follow people. We want to lead. Jacksonville's done this. It's worked for how many years?
Okay.
50? Well, let's keep leading and do what we've done that's got us where we're
Can
at.
we answer your question, Mr. Blevins?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Ms. Raines because I feel that she may have done the research. Do you know if that?
So in Pulaski County, we're one of the last first-class cities that practices at-large voting.
Okay. Councilmember Dietrich, you through, or you need to say something? All right, Councilmember Traylor.
I think we need to clarify what is at-large voting, because I think that like the lawsuit that you were talking about and all of that, there's a big difference between electing people at large, where it's, I think, and then an example would be you have an election and the top 5 vote getters are the ones that are elected. That's at-large electors, correct? That would be what the
That
case
is a
was and what you
method.
read. And with the case that you used as an example, that's what that was about.
The
they did not have
Alabama
a district.
case. Right, the Alabama case and the Georgia case, yes, but I do believe the East.
That's where the unfairness comes from, is when you could have 5 people living on the same street up here representing, because that's the way you did it. We don't do that. You have to live in the ward that you represent, but everyone in the city, you're not elected by getting 300 people to vote for you. It takes more than that to be elected. And I don't personally see anything wrong with that. We are one city, but you have to live in the area, so we have a wide representation of the entire city up here on the board. That's my opinion.
Any other questions before we vote? All right, I entertain the motion to approve on first reading and put on second reading.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion? There a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion before we vote? Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Deets?
Nay.
Councilmember Bolden?
No.
Councilmember Blevins?
Aye.
Councilmember Sansing?
Nay.
Councilmember Ray?
No.
Councilmember Mashburn?
No.
Councilmember Trailer?
No.
Councilmember Twitty?
No.
Councilmember Smith?
No.
Councilmember Raines?
Yes.
Okay, so the ordinance fails. All right, so that brings us, I believe, to a couple items of discussion. Inedible fees increase, need of increase in needs of the recycle center. Councilmember Blevins.
Thank you, Mayor. I have been speaking with Mr. Oakley for a minute about basically what all this stems from is I was contacted by citizens that were asking when the curbside pickup for recycling was gonna resume. They were under the impression that curbside recycling ended due to COVID. So since we basically have gone past to allow more things to happen, it was assumed that the curbside pickup was gonna resume for recycling. After speaking with Mr. Oakley, I found out that that was not necessarily the case, that curbside was ended completely due to multiple deals like the baler being on its last leg, the truck that we had for curbside service needed to be, I would say, replaced. I don't even know if it's just fixed, it just needs to be replaced. And I started looking into this with him, and the first initial number that I was given showed that the recycling center was costing us $20,000 a month. Like we were hemorrhaging $20,000 a month for having the recycling center open. So I spoke with Mr. Oakley. I went to the city attorney, and I put an ordinance together to actually close the recycling center and then put a vote to see about bringing in a third party to handle all of our recycling issues. Since then, the number was revised and was given to me to where we're only hemorrhaging like $12,300 a month, which is still a lot. And I asked how we could handle that, and the truth of the matter is that the city has been absorbing all of these raises and fees, but we have not been trickling it down to the citizens of Jacksonville. Like, there has not been a raise in 10 years, a fee raise in 10 years, but there has been multiple raises in landfill fees and again, workers raises, all this stuff. So, so basically at this point, I feel that we're at the point now where we need to either decide, like, do we want to put money towards getting a new truck? Do we want to fix the baler? Do we want to close the recycling center to bring a third party in here, which there's a cost associated with that. But regardless, it's getting to the point to where we're at critical mass for what the city can absorb. And Mr. Oakley is here to speak on that as well.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Oakley. If we, go ahead, go up to the microphone. I want you to tell us in your survey how many homes typically in a week recycled, and is your recycle center currently being used at a decent volume?
Sure. First, to address Alderman Blevins' comments, them are pretty accurate comments that I told him about the budget and what we're doing and the cost. But to address yours, Mayor, we get, I think it's around 17% when we were doing curbside pickup. We had about a 17% participation.
And y'all kept records of who put it out?
Yeah, we did. We did. We counted every house and about it twice a year, just to see if we had any upticks. See how the trends was working, and it stayed about flat for the last 20 years.
How long?
We did a survey prior to,
How long did you say? How many years? How long did it stay flat?
30,
20, 30 years?
yes, 20, 30 years. We done a survey just prior to COVID because we are getting pretty strapped financially to operate. We're going to have to invest in some more new equipment. The equipment was wore out. And we done a survey to ask if people would pay more to keep curbside. We had about 54 respondents, I believe it was. We spoke about that before too. Majority, I don't know, it's kind of a hodgepodge, but majority of them, I think, that didn't want to pay more. Some, there was probably 10% of that 50 that said they would pay more regardless of what it cost for the most part, was very much adamant about it. But we still operate in the drop-off center. It's about a 50-50 where our total tons went down some, obviously. It looked like it's 1/4%. I was thinking at least be 50, but it went down some. Our trend was going down prior to COVID as well too, as far as our tonnage.
Cardboard and plastic.
Cardboard and plastic. Plastic's a hard thing, you know. We used to separate it, 3 different types of plastics, 1s and 2s and naturals and coloreds. And so there's a lot of touching that plastic for a few dollars.
And glass, correctly? We started doing glass.
We started doing glass. It was funded through our solid waste district as a pilot program, and they pick it up and they fund and pick up that glass as needed in these things that are drop-off center only, not at curbside. We've never done glass. But that's where we at. And our equipment, our trucks that we done the routes with wore out, and we need them. And
I have 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
One, if we were to buy a new truck and go back to curbside, how much would we have to raise? And you may not know this, you may have to bring it back to the next meeting. How much would we have to raise everybody's water rates to go back to doing that, along with the potential, because sanitation costs are going up and that's going up. So, and if we were to hire waste management, which is only one that we've dealt with, the solid waste district, how much do they charge to do single stream recycling?
Sure. I can't give you an exact number for us going back and doing it. It'd take quite a bit of calculations and the expertise of Cheryl to help me. But we can try to do an estimation to that. But the way we were doing it, to be honest with you, is antiquated right now. It's old, it's antiquated. We can't do things. We're doing source separated to curbside. People don't like source separated. They want to co-mingle it in one can. You get the participation rate up, and we can't do that in-house. We'd have to subcontract that out to somebody, another vendor, which most likely would probably be Waste Management, but you know, we bid it out.
And they charge.
It's about $5 a month added to the fees.
$5.80, $5.90, you know.
That's correct, sir. It's around about
to each citizen.
Yeah, that's money.
Yeah.
And that's whether you recycle or don't recycle.
That's right. You have to charge that per customer. If we have 9,000 customers, we're going to get, whether you recycle or not, you're going to get to pay for the number of cans. They're going to put a can in every house, and you're going to pay.
I'm sorry, no, go ahead, sir.
One thing I'm going to say as a council member, $4 a month, $5 a month, $6 a month, $7 a month on a bill.
Additional.
Additional.
Yes, sir.
And a person is not recycling. I don't know too many constituents that would want to do that because money's already tight. And we already know it may be higher because gas prices are shooting up. I mean, they're outrageous right now. Right. So
it's not going to go down.
I
guarantee that.
No. So those kind of things, when you look at an increase on your constituents, that's not a good thing.
Sure.
With our conversation that we had, you did also discuss that the city may be able to absorb $1 of that $5 to where we would only need to increase it by, say, $4 if we did. You said you had to go back and look at it, but you did make a mention that there is some wiggle room for the city to absorb some of it. But at this point, we do need to do something about the money situation, correct?
Yes. Let me kind of break that down a little further though with you.
Yes, sir.
We get approximately spend when we doing curbside and drop off approximately about $2.25 per person of that $15.50. About $1, about half of that was used to do curbside. So we have absorbed that half because we added another truck, another route to pick up bulky waste because we just couldn't keep up one truck for the whole city. So that kind of absorbed that dollar, and that helped absorb that dollar. We just done that recently when we stopped doing curbside. So we got about $1.25 left there that we're working the drop off with. We got a employee and a half in electricity and Beller and equipment and materials. To use that $1.50 towards the curbside, we would have to stop the drop off though.
You mean close the recycling?
Yes, yeah. Close the recycling center, drop off, and do curbside only. And that's what most cities are doing. They're, that's in this big contract, and we could join that contract with Little Rock, North Little Rock, and Sherwood, and the rural Placer County is in this contract with Waste Management, and we're a member of that.
$5.79 a month they're
And I believe so, Mayor.
Right.
That's just for recycling.
Just for recycling only. And I think everybody's paying for it, and most of the people are paying the $15.50, $17 plus, and they're in the $21, $22 a month range. We're at $15.50 a month. So.
Can I ask you a question about the recycling center? How come we can't have the dumpsters outside so people can come after hours?
24/7? That's a good question. Contamination. We was getting, because it's unmanned, the level of contamination was to a point, it was too expensive. It was cheaper to throw it away than it was to try to sort it out. That people would throw stuff we couldn't handle. They may throw oil, they may throw gas, they may throw TVs. It's all, it's everything because it's unmanned. And the contamination rate got so high.
We're open on Saturday though, right? I know.
Or any night.
We
are
are
open. The recycling
Yes.
center is open on Saturdays.
We are. That's why we went to Saturday. We start working Tuesday through Saturday to allow people that work Monday through Friday to get there. Yes, sir.
I got a question, Bob.
Yeah. Councilmember Simpson.
Okay, first off, I'm gonna state right up front, I am loath, even though it's been 10 years, to raise rates on the citizens, because they're pretty high right now. Going to something like a waste management type situation would put, in my opinion, too big a jump on it. I like the fact that the city of Jacksonville owns its own recycling center, and I've got no problem with the drop-off. Surely we can come up with some information to where it doesn't it doesn't raise the rates almost $6 an hour. Because there's a lot of people, like you said, that will be paying an extra $6 an hour and not
Or a month,
getting
yes,
a
sir.
benefit from it at all. And I abhor that idea.
Well,
So
I understand.
keeping a drop-off situation to where the people who want to use it can use it, and raising regular trash rates a very minimum amount would be probably much less expensive to the citizens of Jacksonville and not increase their rates, because every time you're talking $5-6, you got to multiply it by 12. You're talking 60 to $70 more a month. And a lot of people are just now getting back to work.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't need to put, regardless of the city's need, the citizens, they don't need the burden. So back to the drawing board about keeping the regular city open and just what we need to do to keep the sanitation as it is, keeping the regular recycle open. Let's not go experiment. I mean, other cities are doing it, but for us it'd be an experiment and dropping barrels off houses all over town that don't need it.
It is the cheapest way of doing it, the way we're doing it. We're keeping it down. We can keep those fees. We are the cheapest in central Arkansas, as I mentioned.
And that team over there, the team at the recycle is awesome. I mean, when you pull up there, I mean, they'll show you boom, boom, I had some stuff on a trailer one time, so no, they work with you.
We tried to do is good.
Yeah, so they work as a
Thank you.
team.
We need to keep it as it is.
I agree.
Okay. Councilmember Blevins.
I just wanted to mention that the reason, the contamination with recycling, I just wanted to state, like, the reason that is so important is because we resell that recycling to make money to help offset some of these costs. And the more diluted that recycling is due to contamination, the less money that we get. But I understand what everybody's saying about, like, hey, look, we don't need to add more money, and I don't like the idea of adding more money. But the thing is that money is still being added to us, and I mean that money's going to have to eventually be paid at some point.
Yes, it very well could one day. in the near future, we're gonna have to have an increase, or the general fund will have to absorb the
If-
losses, one.
if
I mean,
the-
the
if
engine,
the
the
Baylor
bill's gotta be
breaks-
paid, but we're surviving right now.
Let me say another thing too, dealing with the city of Jacksonville and other entities here in the city, such as the Water Commission and stuff. We have a history of trying to prevent the community from having to pay anything. So we always try to absorb rather than pass it on. And I think that's something that needs to be documented. We're the type of leaders that, you know, how much is it? Well, can we afford that? Well, let us do it and not give it to those who are in the community. And I've always liked that, even on the other entities I've served on.
We've been doing it for 10 years.
The only thing I might
Councilmember Trey.
add to that would be, though, you have to be very careful.
Oh, yeah.
Don't wait till it's too late, and then instead of asking for a
Oh, that's true.
1%,
That's true.
1%, you needed 6%.
Exactly.
That's why we got
That
people
can
like
happen
Cheryl can put a red flag up and that little red light go, we gonna need a raise about next week.
I have one more question for you, Mr. Ugly. In your professional opinion, from doing this for 10 years and everything, are we at the point where we need to raise the fees? Like, I mean, are we at the point where we need to do something about the landfill fees that are being increased? I mean, like, if the Baylor breaks, are we messed up? Like, if another truck breaks down, are we just?
We try to keep, I try to keep at least 400,000 in reserve, 300,000, 400,000. That way, if a truck it costs about 300,000 for a truck, one truck. So if I have a truck crash, turnover, get stalled, I gotta have enough to get a truck quick. So I try to keep at least that much on hand. So we are in the black right now, and we are funding depreciation. So we're keeping our head above water, but it's getting tighter and tighter. The lines are getting tighter. Yes, sir. I'd like to be fully vested in as far as depreciation. I got about $2 million worth of equipment. We've had it, some of them long enough. We should have probably 600, 700, 800,000 in depreciation, which I think we're down about 300. I bought $700,000 worth of trucks in the last year or two, so we got it down a little bit. Yeah.
So if we left everything like it is, do you think we could make it close to 2 years without raising sanitation rates?
I'd have to study that a little more before I can make that comment, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
But at least a year.
Yeah. I'll have to get with my our finance director and let's beat that horse a little bit before I can make it.
Okay.
Yes.
Come back next year.
Oh,
Sorry.
Councilmember Raines.
It's all good. So, right? So, can you just remind me, are we legally obligated to provide recycling?
That's a yes, sort of. Back in I can't remember the date, 89, I think, 87, 89, the state passed some mandates that all cities needed to reduce their solid waste by 40%. We met that in the first 2 years we started the program. Now, mind you, we landfilled our yard waste up to that point. And just pulling out yard waste, which is still recycling, which is about 40% of what we take in total waste for the year. So we already almost meet that mandate by just doing yard waste recycling. And we grind all of our yard waste into compost, mulch, and give it back to the citizens, or use it for local projects ourselves. So
Right,
we just
yeah.
about meet that. Yes, there is a mandate out there that was done in 1989, I think.
Right, I know
Somewhere
that
in
we've
there.
been working on it with the environmental committee. I just didn't recall if we were legally obligated.
There's no
But
tracking mechanism. We do submit everything we do in recycling. The tonnage we get in time we don't to ADEQ. They analyze it. We get grants, some grant monies through them on a regular basis.
right, right. And so, you know, one interesting point that I want to make for the mayor, one of the things that we are working towards, I should say, in the environmental committee is finding alternative methods of reducing the cost of public works. And one of my suggestions is an anaerobic digester, which would then be able to create an alternative energy source for the community that would offset the cost. And hopefully we would be able to use that to offset the recycling program.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody
else?
I wanted to kind of to remind you, Mr. Oakland.
Yes, sir.
Back when we all got together a few years ago and the vote came out that we were going to, we had talked about stopping the recycle. I asked the very same question she asked. And in your statement, you told me that the law states we have to have a place for them to recycle. So it has to be available. The facility has to be there. The law doesn't state we have to go to their house and pick it up.
It's mostly about a percentage, 40%.
So I just wanted to bring.
That was a mandate, that was a goal for the state. It wasn't necessarily a mandate, but it was a goal, they want us to attain it, which we did. I mean, and we do. We're still recycling about 40% of our total waste from all of our citizens in Jacksonville, which is a pretty good program, pretty good, not bad.
Facility we cover.
I know we'd like to have zero waste.
Right.
But,
Okay.
you betcha.
Anybody else have anything on this issue? All right. Next issue is, Councilmember Blevins wants to discuss salary and staffing. Councilmember Blevins.
So this, what I'm going to mention now was not what I intended to mention when I added this on here, but it has been brought to my attention what I wanted to present, which I don't want to talk about. But I was told that what I wanted to present could not happen, primarily due to the fact that the finance department is trying at this particular moment to come up with $188,000 to finance the 6 EMTs for the Unity Health Hospital ambulance that we're getting in January. And I was a little kind of taken aback by that, because I know during the last city council meeting, it was mentioned that, this wasn't a binding agreement. We didn't have to do this. And, it was even mentioned, well, hey, look, if we didn't vote for the 6 EMTs, are we going to, for the $377,000 in the budget for next year, is this something that we were legally on? And it was mentioned, no, we don't need to do that. But I found out that, again, they're trying to find the money to hire them immediately to get them prepared for next year, in which also that $377,000 is wanting to be presented on the budget. So I guess my statement is if we are doing this to try to find this $188,000 to hire these 6 EMTs right now, we probably need to go ahead and agree now that we're going to fund those 6 EMTs next year at $377,000, or we're going to be throwing this good money after something that isn't even going to be there next year.
Chief Laffey, would you care to address the need for EMTs with or without Unity Health, or with or without an ambulance?
Yeah.
So it depends on what the line of questioning is, because I feel like I covered quite a bit of detail on why we need these EMTs and paramedics. So it just depends on what angle are we talking about here? What exactly is the question?
I mean, I've told you numerous times that in next year's budget, I would like to add the EMTs you wanted. Whether or not we had a new ambulance,
Right.
we would use the old one, because we need 4 ambulances running in town.
Correct.
Now, this ambulance isn't specifically for Unity Health. You're working out agreements with other ambulance services to provide that non-emergency transportation if we are needed in Jacksonville for emergency.
Correct, and that's the plan.
That's the whole plan.
Right.
And you're in need of those EMTs today because your ambulances are just really too busy. Is there ever a time that we don't have an ambulance to get somebody when they call in?
There have been some times where all of our ambulances have been out. We've had additional EMS calls and we could not fulfill those obligations. And in those cases, we'll send an engine company and they'll do the best that they can with the crew on board with the EMS jump bag, but they're literally on scene waiting for an ambulance. That's happened on numerous occasions, yes.
Okay. Mr. Burdell, do you have any questions?
Excuse me.
Chief?
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Hastings.
You stated at the last meeting that we have 70% more calls now than we did a few years ago, and you just stated that we currently do not have enough ambulances to suit this, to fulfill the needs of the city of Jacksonville, which means we're taking fire units and sending fire units out to do ambulance work. So this clearly tells to me that if we're going to serve the citizens properly, we absolutely need, regardless, the lucky part is we don't have to pay for an ambulance we need. That's the lucky part. But we do absolutely need to fund the personnel just to protect our citizens.
Correct. But I'm not sure I understand exactly what Mr. Blevins wants to ask me.
Initially, this the whole idea, absolutely, you need EMTs, and I know after speaking with you that the general progression of the plan was to kind of do step motions to make it happen.
Correct.
And when the actual contract was signed back in December unilaterally, it was, I don't know why it wasn't discussed at that time that we would need to fund people during this budget, because there was plenty of time for them to add it to the budget for this year, but we don't, obviously we don't have that in the budget, so we're having to pull, $188,000 out of thin air right now to basically hire these 6 people. And I understand that the reason is because they need to get in school so they could be trained for next year.
Correct.
And again, my question, this salary and staffing idea was not a question really for you, but it was to the city council. Like, we did not know that this 6 EMT hiring was going to be needing to be done, because no one had seen the contract and no one had even known that any of this stuff was coming. So now, not only do we now know about it, but we have to act immediately without having our numbers together, without having it set up. And we're having to do it to fill a position that we still haven't even decided if we were going to fill for next year. And that was what I wanted the discussion to be about for the salaries. Again, I know that you need people, and I know that you definitely had a plan, but unfortunately, all that plan was thrown out of the, was thrown away due to circumstances.
Correct. And in our discussion, and it's like I gave the football analogy, we're trying to win the game in the fourth quarter. It's 4th and 20. We're not going to argue in the huddle as to why we're here and how we got here.
Right.
What's the next play? And the next play is the 10 of you.
And so again, my statement was, if we're going to fund this with what Cheryl and Charlotte are looking at doing, we need to go ahead and lock in now that we're going to fund that $377,000 next year, so these people have a job to go to. I mean, is that not a? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would think
Member Trailer.
that we would do that in the budget process when it is brought to us.
Yes.
Department heads
Right.
will put together a budget, they will give it to the mayor, they will present it to us. It will probably be in there. There's nothing we can do about it right now. We wait until we see the budget.
And you can cut out of the budget, which you'll have before, positions and different things, and that's the prerogative of the council. They have that right to do that.
And that statement right there is the reason why I feel that this needs to be discussed now. Like, we need to basically be on board that we're not gonna cut that from the budget.
Right.
Because if we cut it from the budget at that time, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Trailer.
Only thing I was gonna say, there's no way to sit here and talk about what we are going to include in the budget or what we're going to cut out of the budget until we see the budget.
But we are already budgeting right now for a job that we haven't. Well, yeah, we are. We're budgeting for the 6 EMTs
You may
to go
be
right now.
you may be asked to do that, but you haven't been asked yet.
I think there's a point of clarity where I can help here. And that is, there's a provision in the personnel policy manual that allows overhiring in special circumstances.
Right.
The special circumstance in this case is we have an ambulance that will arrive in the first quarter of next year. We have a collective perceived obligation that somewhere on or about the month of May, there's going to be an emergency department, and there's going to be an obligation from the city of Jacksonville to provide non-emergency transports. That's where I come into play. Now, you all want me and need me, and it's my responsibility to come up with a plan to make sure I have personnel on those ambulances. So there are time frames that are involved in that. If I start overhiring now, and I started the process, and by the process I mean interviews. I haven't hired anybody for overhiring yet.
Right.
If I start now, I can get 2 individuals ready and on the street and ready to go in April. That's if I start now. Now, if I start in July or August, in fact, I think it's around the 23rd of August, those personnel will not be ready until the summertime. If I wait to hire and look at this as a black and white monetary issue and wait for the fiscal year, and the council says, now you can have those 6 individuals, it will be the 3rd week of October before that ambulance will be staffed. So my question to you is, do we want that brand new ambulance sitting in a bay for nearly a year not staffed? So that's why we back it up to get these individuals in schools. So to Mr. Blevin's question, if I'm understanding you correctly, if we start the over-hiring process now in order to have the correct personnel to be able to staff throughout the year, that ambulance, and we start funding that, are these firefighters going to lose their jobs next year?
That is correct.
If we don't say today, and I'm not asking you, I'm just saying if I understand you correctly, if we don't say today.
I just want us to be
that-
aware that this is, that we're, you know, that it is going to eventually be presented for us to pay for those 6 people now.
Correct.
For this job for next year that we have not even agreed to. And I don't want it to happen to where we get these people trained and get them set up and then them not have a job next year. So that is, I was just trying to say I wanted us to be aware that this money is going to be requested, this $377,000 is going to be requested on the next budget, and it's going to be kind of something that we're not going to be able to take off, or people that we've already invested money into are going to lose their jobs.
I think it's a fair question. But I don't want to put any of you in a position and strong-arming you into making a promise that these 6 positions are going to be available next year. That's not my position here, but I think it's a fair question to ask. Not for me to decide, thank goodness.
So the cliff notes of this would be that Mr. Blevins wants to make us aware that there could possibly be 6 people in the budget next year, basically.
That's right.
Well, we knew that was going to be in there. Also, I just want to let you know that there are 6
I
people.
think we've answered that.
We have answered that.
So,
Yeah,
to expand on that, we get reimbursed for some of this money and from some of the calls we do in the runs.
We do.
So we budget it, but we're expecting you to get 240,000 of it back. So we're not going to be out all of it. But whether we are or not, we're going to find the money, I believe, because we need the ambulance, we need the Unity Hospital, and we need to serve the people of Jacksonville. And I think that's what we're up here to do.
Go ahead.
And one thing I want to add too, and thank you, Chief, and thank you, Cheryl. We all know in this business, it's always long-range planning.
I got the same question.
When the vision's there and you have the people you need, that's why you research and try to make sure we can come up with the funding. But like Mike said, when the budget comes up, we're already aware of what's going to be in there because it's in our mind now. So.
And again, I wanted
We're
to
going
say
to
that I
need more
had.
policemen, and we're going to need more police cars. We can just suspect all that in the budget.
Helicopter.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you, but I think Mike might have mentioned it. How much do we write off every year for ambulance runs?
Nikki handles that, I would have to ask her, but I can get you that answer.
It's a big number. I mean, I don't really want the number.
It's a large
very
number.
Big number.
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Have we ever looked at maybe trying it a little harder to get it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, other than, do we just send out a letter and if they don't pay it, we write it off?
No, that process is vetted pretty extensively by
Is it?
Nikki.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, but she is one person trying, I mean, I guess
That's
what I'm
right.
looking at is, I don't know what it would cost to turn that over to an outside source when it gets to that point. And would we get more than what it cost us?
Nikki and I have been talking about a third-party vendor and different types of software to answer your question. So yes, we're looking into that.
Okay, Councilmember Blevins.
I just wanted to reiterate, I'm not against us hiring 6 new people for the deal. I just wanted to say if we're going to put money in now, I wanted people to be aware that this debt has like an attachment to it that we're doing right now, you know? So that's all.
Okay,
I have a question.
yes.
So are we overhiring now? Have we officially made that decision?
We made the decision that it's time to overhire, but I have not overhired yet.
Okay.
Yes.
And so that's what that
88.
Correct.
right.
And that will have to come before the council, correct, Cheryl?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
All I can say to that then, the sooner the better.
Okay. All right. That being said, let's move on to the next discussion item about hiring an economic developer. Councilmember Blevins.
Thank you. So during the election back in 2018, one of the biggest premises that were ran with the mayor who won was this EPIC program, and the very first item on the EPIC program was to hire an economic developer. Now, I've been very vocal about the Chamber of Commerce, and believe it or not, this is probably not going to be what you guys think it's going to be, but other cities are actually hiring city economic developers to do things. We have a full-time CEO of the Chamber of Commerce who is also getting paid by the AMP Commission, to handle some economic development items. With taking all of this into consideration and seeing the money that was being spent and seeing that we don't actually have a full-time economic developer, what we have is we have a part-time economic developer with Courtney Dunn, the CEO of the Chamber. I would like to discuss the idea of hiring Courtney Dunn as the city's full-time economic developer, and then allowing basically the Chamber to have the opportunity to hire a new CEO. That way we already have someone that knows both parts of the Chamber and the other item, and having them work together, like basically giving another avenue for us to look at. It was well presented in an email currently, her accolades of economic development study that she's been doing, and it seems like there's way more economic development schooling that she has done to get accredited as an economic developer, that maybe she has outgrown the idea of being a CEO of the Chamber of Commerce and maybe should be presented as a full-time economic developer for the city. So that is my discussion.
Okay, we've had an economic developer in the past paid by the city, but they paid it to the Chamber and the economic developer, and I think that's the way Cabot and Sherwood both do it, is they give money from their general fund to the Chamber of Commerce. The last, I'm not sure who it is, there's a girl who lives in North Lake that I think is doing some economic development for Sherwood, but they actually hired one that worked for the city, and then he left after about 6 months. Donnie Crane, he was 100 and something, he went to Oklahoma for $125,000 a year. And I think Cabot's is paid through their chamber. Yes.
The Cabot economic developer is an employee of the city.
Is it?
It's not through the chamber anymore.
Okay.
They made that
the
decision.
change. Okay.
Absolutely. They hired somebody, and we can definitely see how well that has treated them. Again, I feel that after all this time, whereas I was critical of the chamber, and I was asking, and everybody was saying, oh, well, the Chamber's doing great, the Chamber's doing great. I think that line between what the Chamber was doing and what the economic development portion of it was melded together and was very skewed. And after going back and looking and seeing that economic development was more her forte than it was, say, it's a lot easier to hire a CEO for the Chamber than it is to hire an economic developer. And I feel that she has definitely gone through all the classes and done everything necessary to be a full-time economic developer for the city and be like an employee of the city, and then us, then have them basically look at possibly, hiring somebody as a CEO for the Chamber that she also will be working hand in hand with. So she already knows the ins and outs of there. It just seemed like a perfect match.
And that could be considered, but yes, who has a question? Councilmember Sensi.
We were just discussing a moment ago funding for EMTs. We are already getting Ms. Courtney Dunn, who has excellent credentials and's run the chamber and an excellent track record. I'm saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't spend any more money than we've already talked about we need to. Maybe in the future we can look at this. It's not a bad idea, But I just don't think we need to spend the extra money right now when we're looking at other stuff. And she's doing a fantastic job.
And enjoying the job she's doing.
Okay, Councilmember Blevins.
The whole idea behind it is not, hey, look, we're trying to get, again, like in these other instances, we're talking, 377,000, 188,000. The truth of the matter is that the contract for economic development that is done through the AMP Commission would pay almost half of that salary. So we would only really need to fund like $40,000, which is a full-time employee, to have us be have a full-time economic developer. And again, this is only if she would even agree to it. But again, that's why I wanted to have the discussion.
Okay,
Think
we've had it. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Councilmember Bowden.
Good idea, but it costs money. And anything that costs money, we don't need to consider it at this time.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, I am largely grateful for what the service that Courtney provides to the city and to the chamber, and I don't think at this time this would be a wise decision for us to make.
Okay. All right. Now we've got resolution 807. I would entertain the motion to read resolution 807. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right.
Resolution 807, a resolution expressing the willingness of the City of Jacksonville Public Works to utilize federal aid transportation alternatives program funds to develop or improve Military Road Phase 3 sidewalk and for other purposes.
Ms. Ruckley, could you address this, please?
We brought this to you, I think 2 years ago.
Yep, 2
We
years.
applied for a grant and we passed this resolution to allow us to apply for a grant that y'all pledged 20%
Right.
of a project. This is a sidewalk, 2 projects. One is for the sidewalk to pick up from Crooked Creek on General Samuels and go down to the new elementary school there at Harris Road. And that was one of the grants. It's about
That's
300,000.
808. That's the next.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got one ahead of me.
This
The
is
other
the
one
military
is
road.
a phase 3. We've had 2 grants approved already for Military Road. So we've done phase 1 from Stanfield, or take it back, Woodbriar up to Park. We got approved for another grant there on phase 2 to go from Park, and I'm not sure where it's going to take it. We're going to do the design all the way down to 161. Our funding got cut. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, between $200,000 and $300,000. It'll probably be more of a $500,000 project, so we want to apply to finish that phase. That'd be phase 3. So that was the one on General Samuels.
And eventually, you want a sidewalk from Loop Road all the way to First Street.
What? Yes. That ultimately, that's going to be a phase probably 4,
Because
because they
that's
don't give that much
population
money.
growth,
About
so
$1.5 million to the whole project,
Right.
and they just only give
And
grants
those
out
grants
in
come out once a year, and we'll keep
$300,000
asking.
increments.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. I entertain a motion to approve 807.
Resolution 808.
Second.
Okay, this is 807. Okay.
807.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. That brings us to resolution 808. I entertain a motion to read resolution 808. Okay. First, say, yeah, he's already told us what it is. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Okay, we gotta read it first. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay.
Resolution 808, a resolution expressing the willingness of the City of Jacksonville Public Works to utilize federal aid transportation alternatives program funds to develop or improve General Samuels Road sidewalk and for other purposes.
Okay. And I entered a motion, since we've already heard from Jimmy on, you got a question?
I actually had written down here where to ask Jimmy it was gonna be, and I missed it.
I'm
So
sorry.
how far does the sidewalks go from like Sheridan up towards Bobby Lester? Coming from the other direction, coming from General Samuels, Redmond Road, coming that way.
We only have it in front of Crooked Creek. That was a subdivision that met the new guidelines for our city ordinance, that all new subdivisions will have to put a sidewalk in. So the older subdivision did not have to put a sidewalk in
But
front.
like Sheridan is the last, when you're coming from Redmond up General Samuels, Sheridan, I think is the name of that street. It's the last
Okay.
street that you get before you get to Bobby Lester. Would that area be eligible for sidewalk?
Sheridan already has sidewalk. I may be
On
missing.
General Samuels.
That's what, yeah, on General Samuels.
What about from where those houses end to,
That's what this is for.
where's Crooked Creek?
That's Sheridan.
I thought-
Sheridan
I was
is
thinking
Crooked
Lost
Creek. The whole subdivision is called Crooked
Not
Creek.
Lost Creek.
Sheridan is the road.
There we go.
All right.
Yes.
Yes. I live out there. I got it. That's my.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and adopt 808. All those in favor say aye. Okay, who made the motion to approve and adopt? Commissioner Bowden, who seconded it? Who did?
Me and Terry both second.
You got it? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Okay, it carried. Okay, then that brings us to, the only thing is, I asked that you read this, and where it says, it was in your packet, and where it says, we didn't have, I was referring to we, the hospital board, that I'm chairman of, because the next sentence says the hospital board took the appraisal records from the county. And that's all I have to say about that. So, the next item is we have somebody up for appointment to,
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have the announcements.
Okay.
Go ahead. Do you have an announcement?
I just wanted to make one comment. I alluded to when I went on the council earlier, Reedy Ray was already went on the council when I went on it, so. He was already here.
I have two announcements and one statement. Number one, I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but last week we lost Miss Cindy Powell of the Central Arkansas Library, Esther DeWitt. I've known Miss Cindy and Ed. They came to my store all the time when I first opened, and I wanted to let everybody know this is a huge loss for the city. Like this lady has gone above and beyond to not only help people, but there are people that know how to read because of her. She was very impactful with the city, and speaking with them, if you would like to make any donations in Miss Cindy's name, the family has asked that you do the donations to the van, which was her favorite nonprofit that she dealt with. It's thevan.org. It's a van that goes around and feeds people. She was a huge person in this community, and I promise to you, Jacksonville got a little worse with her being gone. I mean, it sucks. And for my second announcement, I just wanted to let everybody know that the White House on June 1st sent a letter out recognizing that June is Pride Month. Pride Month is a celebration for the LGBTQ community, and I have a statement that I want to make. It's real quick. June is Pride Month. As an ally of the LGBTQ community, I wanted to make this statement. I wanted to be on the record. June is Pride Month, which is a month-long celebration for the LGBTQ community. It takes place in June in remembrance of the 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Manhattan, which has been deemed the tipping point of the LGBTQ movement. It is crazy to comprehend that the preference of who people decide to love is criticized to the point of violence and hate. These LGBTQ advocators have fought and progressed to the point of being accepted by most, and even getting recognized to be able to enter the realm of marriage. Although it is not accepted by all, this is the new norm of the world. Unfortunately, after all this fighting and loss, after overcoming hate and violence, people are still quiet of their beliefs due to the threat of ridicule and the possibility of harm. This hate makes people hide who they really are, hide from how they were born. This is unacceptable because we're all human beings. Money does not see a difference, COVID did not see a difference, and in the end, the ground will not see a difference. Why should we? Be who you were born to be. That's my statement.
Okay, Mayor, we have someone who would like to say something.
Before you adjourn, I'd like to address council.
Okay. Are you on the, who's sponsoring you?
Sorry.
Our sponsor.
Okay.
Yeah, Chief just.
Yeah, turn the microphone, sir.
The mic's not on. Okay.
I think it died. You can come to this mic right here.
Thank you. My name is Timothy Hibbs. I live at 405 Warren Street, and I'm here to talk to you about an issue that was brought up at last council meeting. Before I do that, I want to discuss the problem-oriented policing philosophy as approaching problem solving. And then it places a high value on new responses that are preventative in nature rather than being dependent on law enforcement resources. And we have a problem on Warren Street. It was discussed briefly in last council meeting. The problem is simply this. We've got cars that are coming up and down Warren Street. For those of you who don't know, Warren Street's only about 4 blocks long. It runs from West Main to South First. It's primarily residential, bunch of houses on there. We've got cars coming up and down the street, and I'm not talking about 30 and 35 miles an hour. It's 25 mile an hour zone. I'm talking about the 55, 60 mile an hour plus cars that are not racing up and down the street every day, all day long, but it is, because it is sporadic in nature, and I can't make a whole lot of sense out of it. Sometimes it happens on Tuesday, sometimes on Thursday, you just never know. But it's happening often enough that, of course, I live there, but I consider it to be an urgent problem. And using that problem-oriented policing philosophy, we have come up with a solution that we feel like is pretty low impact, low cost, immediate effect, and that is a speed bump there. We've had little resistance from that. I know that the police department is aware of the problem, and they are in a data collection phase where they're gathering information from other parts of the city as well as on Warren Street. We're hoping to see that start soon. The problem is this. We've got a lot of kids on bicycles and living on the street. I brought some neighbors here with me tonight. There are 2 school bus stops. And so there's kids out there every day of the week, at least twice a day. The speed bump would be something that's immediate, pretty low cost. It slows cars down. It just lays there. You don't have to feed it a paycheck or any benefits or anything like that. And it doesn't take up the police department's time. We feel like the police department here has quite enough to do as it is on other matters. So, simple, common sense, cost effective. And I just wanted to say that the data gathering is important because it gets him an idea and you guys an idea of where to place your priorities. We're not here to complain because we support the city, we support the police department, certainly. We're a law enforcement family. But this is a long-term problem. It's not something that's just come up. This is the second time it's been to the council, to y'all's attention, but it's not something new. We consider it urgent, and we don't think it's going to fix itself by itself. And so I'm here to refresh the council's memory of this problem, keep it on your minds, keep it on the agenda, and we'd like to have speed bump. And that's really all I have.
Councilmember Smith, do you have something you'd like to say?
I have a question. How do we get him a speed bump?
There's a policy. There's a track record. Go ahead. Yeah.
We do have a policy. We brought that to the council here this last year. There's a process, and a speed study is one of them. We won't, and it's in the process of getting that done. That we had some couple ahead of you.
Okay.
So yes, 85% of the people need to be going over 15 miles an hour. Is one criteria. And sir?
Has anyone come to see you yet from the last meeting about getting a petition started?
No, we haven't done a petition. I was wanting to get the speed study first
Okay.
to be sure it warrants you go on to the neighbors. And the other one is getting 100%. I think it was 100% of the population there on your street to sign a petition saying they agree to have it. We want some people, the other half calling and saying, get this thing off the road, it's tearing my car up.
Okay.
That happens sometimes too, so that's why we want you to get a petition.
I didn't come here alone. There may be other people here that have something to say.
Sir, I don't think there'd be a problem.
Okay.
Because my mother lives on Warren Street.
Oh, Barbara's called me about it before.
We just got to go through the criteria.
I understand. You know, Warren Street's not the only street in town, and there may be other, I don't know where the priorities lie, but Warren Street's gonna have to be a priority with me, because that's where I see kids on bikes.
Oh,
Let the police chief have something to say.
Go ahead, Chief.
All done, Mayor.
Chief have something to say.
Not much. We discussed it last meeting, if you
I guess
remember.
this is your uncle, since that was your aunt last
Yeah,
time.
she's over there. This is my uncle. He's got many years of law enforcement experience. He worked at the county for a long time, and what I said last time is a speed sign, and that's a sign we have that has a radar in it, and it flashes the speed of the car. And my only issue with that speed sign is that sometimes they try to see how fast they are going. It's not something that's invisible or just sits there and collects data. It is a useful tool. It does slow cars down. We put it on several places. My big problem right now is on Ray Road near Little Vikings football field. There's a ton of kids there, and they're having major problems. So I told y'all last time I'm gonna leave it there a couple of weeks and then move it to Warren. I told my guys today in support services to move it today or tomorrow. And so it should be there probably in his yard tomorrow. I don't know if they got it today, but
Put it in my yard.
it'll be over there somewhere. It's going in somebody's yard. There ain't much
You can
property.
put it in my yard.
Oh, it can't? Yeah. Well, we don't want it to get stolen. That's another thing, but that would look bad. But it's gonna be there, I think, tomorrow. If they didn't do it today, it should be out there tomorrow. I needed to collect data. I want 2-3 weeks at least to give to Jimmy, so he can decide whether or not. I don't do the speed bump part. I'll put the sign out when it's requested. That's my only job in this.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to congratulate our comrade, Barbara Mashburn, on her vision for the Historical Society. They got the ribbon cutting done the other day, and it was awesome.
Yes.
Monday night, bingo starts back up at the Jacksonville Senior Center.
Oh, cool.
We're real excited about that.
Good. I know they could use some money. Okay, any other announcements before we leave? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.
I'm glad for him. I have never done it. I'm glad for him.
No, Bishop's gonna cook up. I actually move it against the wall. No, not your chair, but my chair. Then I get up. Bingo's starting back.